It's time to play the Hi Bob game. Simply watch the Bob...
Howard, I wanted to hear what that lady said.
As I was saying, simply watch the Bob Newhart show and count how many times people say Hi Bob.
Well, why don't we start things off?
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Wakey, wakey, eggs and bacon.
Sorry, try again.
Darn it.
Everybody loves the Hi Bob game.
This is the greatest game I've ever seen.
Weeknights at 10:30, 9:30 Central on MeTV.
Good morning, I'm John Malos and welcome to this edition of Connect with Me. It's on the air, off the presses on this Monday morning. Hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. Hey, today we've got a special guest from the Fresno Bee. Your phone calls are important, 436-MeTV, hit option 11. We're back with our guest in a moment.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
So many things to talk about on this Monday morning. I hope you had a safe holiday weekend, the 4th of July weekend, of course, all crunched into one. You had a 4-day holiday, and we're back here on a Monday on the showroom floor at Ventura TV, live on Comcast, of course, channel 187 and 43.6. And hope you get a chance to call in because 99% of the time you ask much better questions than I do, okay? Questions I can't even think of half the time. But today we're going to be talking about city politics and so much ground to cover. And the last time our guest was here, they hadn't even voted on Measure G quite yet. It was still in the process, and Election Day had not come upon us just yet. Let's put up a graphic up on the screen and I'll show you what I'm talking about in terms of the city budget. Now, the Fresno City Council, of course, passed a budget for nearly $1 billion, that's with a B, for the fiscal year that began already on July the 1st. In a 4-3 vote, only council members Blong Jong, Oliver Baines, and Sal Quintero, of course, voted no. They're the ones that did not want the outsourcing in garbage as well. There will be $276 million in the general fund of spending. Big question is, will there be layoffs? We'll ask our guest about that. And then there's the issue of Mark Scott. He is the city manager, or at least he was. Of course, he announced his resignation to take the same job for the city of Burbank. He had 3 years on the job. I believe he is still on the job for another couple of weeks. Anyway, we've got to talk about Rob Brown, too. He's the fire chief. Fresno Fire Chief Rob Brown was officially charged with felony domestic violence. The 5 felony charges and 1 misdemeanor charge carry a maximum penalty of 7 years in prison. Live in our studio right now is George Hostetter, our friend from the Fresno Bee. He's always welcome here, and he's been here many times for the past year talking about so many things going on in the city of Fresno. His beat at the Fresno Bee is covering the city council, of course, the mayor, Ashley Swearingen, and other goings-on at City Hall. Your questions are more important than mine. 436-MeTV, hit option 11 ASAP. We're back with our friend George Hostetter in just a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean Dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
And welcome back to our program, Connect with Me. 436-MeTV is the number, of course, hit option 11. And our friend George Hostetter is here. It's good to see you.
Hi, John.
How
Good to
are
be
you?
here. I'm fine, thank you.
The last time I saw you here, Measure G was still in the process of being decided, of course. A lot has happened since then. Let's start with the city budget. Of course, they passed the budget. Has the mayor signed off on it yet?
Mayor signed it, so
Okay.
we're 8 days into a new fiscal year, so everything is a-okay. Maybe.
Or is it?
Or is it, right. Yeah.
That's the big question. So what about layoffs? I want to know about layoffs. What are you hearing at City Hall about layoffs?
Well, I'm of the opinion there won't be layoffs. We're an estimate of 15 to 20 layoffs as they somehow fix the budget because there will be no outsourcing income. And
Right.
then it's City Hall, and it's a year-long process, and there's $1 billion and 3,000 employees, and just experience tells you that over the course of the next 12 months, if John Doe were to be laid off, but Linda Smith retires and John Doe moves into that spot, there's one layoff gone, and I got a gut feeling there'll be none.
Because?
Well, just because money is found, and 15 to 20 is a small number in a employment pool of 3,000. And
where'd they find all this extra money all of a sudden? Measure G failed.
Right, Measure G failed. But if you recall, the county has said that the property tax income is going to be a little bit better than they thought, maybe $1.5 million, and that was the hole they were trying to fill, was about $1 to $1.5 million. So maybe the property tax will fill the gap. And again, it's just so much of City Hall budget is opaque. And it's just not me. It's just not you. Somebody from the outside. You go to the council meetings, and there will be council members trying to scratching their head, going, "This budget's driving me nuts." And so I just got a gut feeling that when it's all said and done, there'll be no pink slips, and I hope there aren't.
Yeah, let's hope not. I mean, it's not easy to get a pink slip and know that you're out of a job.
Right.
I mean, especially if you've got a mortgage, kids,
right.
It's rough.
And how would we find out, too? I doubt seriously if the administration is going to send out a news release saying, here are the 15 Smiths who've been laid off because they're not going to do that.
No.
And unless a John Smith calls me up or calls you and say, I got my pink slip and I'm hotter than a drugstore pistol about it, let's talk. Whereas 100 layoffs,
that would make news.
That would be noticeable too. But I just 15 to 20 split over 12 months, and with money being found various places, I don't think there'll be any. And of course, the 3 council members who voted no on the budget, that's what they think too.
Yeah. Now, before we get into the details about Measure G and Mayor Swearingen and some of the other council members, let me ask you, you've covered City Hall for so long. I don't mean to put an age on you, but, you've covered it for about 2 or 3 years.
Right,
no,
right.
no, a little bit more than that. Just kidding. How do you compare this council to, say, other councils that were in office, say, during the Patterson era or during even Alan Autry's term? Do they get along better, or is there a lot of dissension and tension there?
Well, there's tension, but I think they get along well. I think it's a good council. If you recall, 25 years ago, when Fresno went to the strong mayor form of government, the catalyst, or a catalyst for it, was that you had 7 council members who all viewed themselves as little mayors, and it was just a 7-sided civil war. And so the powers that be and the public thought, well, maybe we'll try something different.
Let's take a call here. Good morning, you're on Connect with Me. What's your question? Hello?
Hi. Basically, I was watching the TV there, and is this sort of like I just wanted to check in on it, if it's sound like for Connect to HD TV?
Oh, yeah. You just called Connect with Me. We've got George Hostetter from the Fresno Bee. Do you have a question or no?
Oh, no question. I'm
okay,
sorry.
Thank you for the call. Anyway, sometimes we get that, George. Apologize. Anyway, so I do remember when I first came to Fresno, there was a lot of dissension, and I think Operation Rezone had just concluded or something, or the investigation. It's not like that anymore.
No.
Is it? They get along better.
I think they do. And of course, Council Member Quintero, he was here. He would have been one of those 7 little mayors.
Okay.
And so, but it's a different dynamic. And I think partly because we have a strong mayor, whether it's Mayor Swearingen or Mayor Patterson or Mayor Autry, and they're a lightning rod. So perhaps one of the reasons there's no tears and fisticuffs on the dais is that they have someone they can all agree to dislike, and that's the mayor.
Are there certain council members that are afraid of the mayor, or maybe intimidated might be the right word?
No, I've never seen that.
But they go along with what she wants because they're aligned with her politically, or because of another reason?
Well, like any faction, I think self-interest can create a faction, and if there's always a coalescing of majorities. I don't think there's always any one council member who is always on Mayor Swearingen's side, or somebody would say that, John Smith is in the mayor's hip pocket. No, there's no one like that. They've all got backbones.
Yeah, to a certain extent.
Well, yes, it's to a certain extent, but it's a rough game over there. So
yeah. So now that Measure G is over and the budget's done, what are we going to talk about?
Well, I think
there's still stuff going on that we're going to talk about, of course, during the course of the show.
I think the reverberations from Measure G will be felt for a year.
Oh, interesting.
And
okay.
I just think that the politics from that are so complex that in a variety of ways we're going to see Measure G felt for many, many months.
I want to talk to you more about that in just a moment. On the other side of this break, we're talking with George Hostetter of the Fresno Bee about the ongoings, of course, at City Hall. Now remember, dial 436-ME-TV, but if you want to get on the program, hit option 1111 as soon as possible, and you can get right on the air and ask George your question. We're back after this brief timeout in a moment.
Station 51. Station 51. Television is in dire need of help. Emergency. Paramedics John Gage and Roy DeSoto, please report to ME-TV immediately.
LA, Squad 51.
Dr. Brackett and Nurse McCall are awaiting your arrival.
Please stay with me. Just this one thing. It's very important.
Emergency.
Man, I never thought anybody'd find me here.
Fire department, staff. What's the address?
On ME-TV, weekdays at 5, 4 Central.
10-4.
And we're back here on the air, on the air, off the presses, I should say, on this Monday morning, and having a little Monday morning, tongue-tied? Anyway, 436-ME-TV, hit option 11 as soon as possible, talking to George Hostetter about the goings-on at City Hall. Now, you talked about the fallout from Measure G failing, and you're going to have repercussions, you say, for the better part of the next year, and how so? Can you explain that?
Well, it's about politics, and as an example, water rates. That's coming down the pike real fast. In fact, August 15th, it'll be a Proposition 218 hearing involving water rates. Now,
they want to double the water rates.
Or perhaps it could, depending on how much you use, it could triple.
In the next 3 years.
Over the next 3 years by July 1st of 2016. So
that's not good news.
So you have, and just amazing how Measure G and politics work. Some people aren't happy about this possibility of having water rates triple. This is for residential mainly, but also they could get quite a bit bigger for commercial. But what City Hall wants to do is they want to have a $410 million upgrade to the city's water system. It's crumbling, we're growing, we need a variety of things. The most expensive item in this list is a surface water treatment plant in southeast Fresno, our neck of the woods here. So you got to pay for it somehow. And so through higher rates one way, and of course we're now on meters, so how much you use will increase. But some of the people who were involved in the anti-outsourcing group and Measure G wanted to see Measure G fail, now are upset about these much higher rates, and they want to have it a vote of the voters. Take it to the voters. Rather than having the 7 council members and the mayor decide about water rates, let's take it to the voters.
You think that'll happen?
Well,
possibility.
Possibility. Doug Vaughan is one who very much wants to take it to the voters. Well, you have on the council 3 members who precisely had that attitude toward outsourcing. Listen, we lost some votes. We want to take it to the people and let the people decide. Well, the people rejected Measure G. Well, these three council members, Council President Zhang, Council members Quintero and Baines, they stand to receive, of that $410 million, a lot of the work is going to be done in their districts. So do they decide, well, do we take it to the people like we said we should with Measure G and outsourcing, or do we decide we'll vote and we're going to dramatically increase the rates because we want the stuff in our districts?
So maybe they spoke too soon, huh? A little bit. Maybe they put their foot in their mouth.
Well, maybe,
soon.
What goes around comes around.
Yeah.
Or maybe in politics, it's like no one can remember yesterday and no one will care, and so.
But the question I have is, the fact that Measure G failed, is this a way for the mayor and the other council members to make up for that lost revenue from Measure G?
No.
Is to raise the water rates?
I don't think so. The Measure G money would have gone to the general fund, and the increased water rates will go to the water division, and they'll be separated. So no.
Separate issue. Okay. We got a call here. Good morning. What's your question to George Hostetter?
Well, first I have a comment.
Okay.
I wanted to make a comment about the city of Fresno garbage haulers. Never been more courteous. Never been more careful about leaving a mess at the curb. Hey, we got it made now. Those of us that still have the city of Fresno pickup. Okay, that was my comment. My question is going back to I shut the volume down, so I didn't hear whether or not there's been any discussion about future political aspirations for the mayor, Swearingen. That's one thing for George. And the second thing I have for George, of course, is the high-speed rail issue. Is George in favor of it? If so, what is he? I mean, today, is he in favor of it? And if you could get a comment. So those two things. Thank you.
I think as a journalist, you can't comment one way or the other whether you favor or you're against something. I believe that's the case.
I would be cautious
yes.
over iced tea. This gentleman and I can we can exchange opinions, but I better not on TV.
Yeah, you got to keep your credibility. I'm serious.
But high-speed rail is. I'll say I do have some worries, and I hope they're resolved. But high-speed rail coming through a
residential area,
well,
or even
the work area, OK Produce, right
Yeah.
across the street from where the B is, and
Yeah.
high-speed rail comes through there, and OK Produce, just as one example of many, they work 24/7 there, and a lot of people have
They'll be
jobs
gone,
there,
right?
And so maybe they can relocate, but do they relocate in Fresno, or do they relocate in Fowler, or do they relocate in Madera? And so I just worry very much what high-speed rail will do to businesses along that corridor from the river down through as you get out of town in the south. So,
and that's just one business, George. That's just one business. What about the other question the caller had about Ashley Swearingen, the mayor? Any other higher political aspirations? Or
well, she says she's always concentrating on the job at hand, but of course she's an ambitious woman, and she should be. She's very talented, and she speaks well, and so I don't know if it's a political office or if she might be in an appointed office, but if come 2020, you and I'll be here, and she'll be someplace far above my lowly position.
Yeah. and mine too. Another caller coming in. Good morning. You're on Connect with me. What's your question for George Hostetter? Hello. Oops. You know what the problem was is that you had your TV up just a little bit too loud and we couldn't hear you and you couldn't hear us. Anyway, remember, if you call in, turn down the volume. 436-ME-TV, hit option 11. One more segment to go with our guy from the Fresno Bee, George Hostetter, in just a moment.
Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're the save energy, save time, save money place. The Energy Star qualified, ready, steam equipped, high efficiency Frigidaire affinity place. You heard right. Right now, save big on select Frigidaire laundry pairs and pay no interest when paid in full within 6 months. At the hometown low price, think outside the big box place. Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place.
And we're back here with George Hostetter. Someone is on the phone. They're calling in. Remember, turn down the sound on your television set so you can hear us. And it's 436-ME-TV, option 11. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. What's your question?
Yes, more of a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
About this high-speed rail.
Go ahead.
I think it'd be a lot better to take the money for the high-speed rail, put it back into the state, rather than running a 200-mile-an-hour train for about 300 miles. The state could use the money more, and so could the people.
Okay, that's all. Do you have a question for George? I guess that was it.
No.
So, okay.
Yeah. Thank you much.
Okay, I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way, but then you have those advocates on the other side that are in favor of high-speed rail. They feel it will improve our way of life here in the valley.
Mm-hmm. Right, a lot of jobs, and things change, and I don't know if I'm much of a train person myself, but my children, maybe they'll like it and and get out of the cars. I don't know.
Other topics to talk about before we move on, though, just one more quick thing about the mayor, this Measure G thing. Did it knock her down a peg, and will it hurt any political runs in the future?
Well, it was a defeat for her, so of course that had to have hurt, I'm sure, emotionally and to a degree politically. Instead of a 56-game hitting streak like Joe DiMaggio, she went 0 for 4 on this one deal, and so that's got to hurt. And yet, you've been around City Hall a long time, and it's like, pretty soon a couple of victories in something, maybe with Fulton Mall, that kind of an issue, and then all of a sudden it's like, measure what? And people forget.
Yeah, they do. Another call. Good morning. You're on with George Hostetter.
Yeah, good
and
morning,
your question
John.
is what?
A couple of questions for George.
Okay.
Does the water bill, will that affect the county also? That's my first question. Whether I'm in the county, of course, and I cringe in seeing the water rate goes up. I told a neighbor I'm not going to water my lawn anymore if it goes up, or at least the grass, the grass part. Maybe not, kind of tongue-in-cheek. And the two-way traffic, is that still on downtown? I don't know if this is getting off the records or something, if this is the topic you're talking about. Two-way traffic, that's still on, George? That's it. Those are the two questions.
Well, now, if we're talking two-way traffic on what is now Fulton Mall and the effort to get traffic there between Tuolumne and Inyo, is that... I think that's what we're talking about.
I think that's what we're talking about,
right.
Yes.
And yes, the effort is still afoot to get that. The mayor very much wants it, and it's a long process. It's going to be several years if it happens before it does.
And the same with Fulton Mall, probably.
Right, and the significant thing there is there seems to be a growing... ultimately, the council will make the decision as they do studies and engineering work, and there are 3 options on the table. 2 of them involve traffic. But there seems to be, as recent votes at the council indicate, a jaundiced view toward returning traffic to Fulton Mall.
Yeah.
And whether or not the mayor can get 4 votes when stuff comes up, I don't know. And now on the water rates in the county, I live in a county island, but I get city utilities, so yes, the higher water rates would affect county island folks. Now, if you live out in the county near, say, Mendota, that's not city, but county island areas...
Like Fig Garden is a county island.
Yes,
yeah, same
and
thing.
so yes, it's, if you live in a county island, get ready more than likely for higher
Unfortunately.
Right.
Get ready. Brace yourself. All right. Let's put up on the screen one more time the issue with Mark Scott, city manager. He's going on to Burbank. He's on the job for, what, another couple of weeks?
Right. I think he leaves the 18th or 19th, and Assistant City Manager Bruce Rudd steps right in from there. And Mark heads off to Southern California, which has been his second home. He's originally from Fresno, but it's Southern California is now his kind of second home.
Now, if you listen to the opponents of Measure G, the union people, they're going to say, wow, Mark Scott, good grief. He's leaving. He's taking a better job for more money. Now look what he did for us here, which was nothing. He's going to go to Burbank and do the same thing for more money. Those are the opponents, of course, of Measure G, the union leaders. How do you see, or how do you think he's perceived overall at City Hall? Did he do a good job for the 3 years that he was here? 3 or 4 years, whatever it was?
I think without a doubt he did.
Decent job?
He did a very good job.
Considering the hand he was dealt.
Yeah, remember, he comes in here in March of or April of 2010, and that's when the light's beginning to click on in everybody that this recession isn't going to be, 16 or 18 months. It's going to be a long one. And so Mark has to deal with layoffs and attrition, and he's having to deal with a parks department that can't barely mow the lawn, and loses his director, and so the assistant city manager has to double as the parks director, and city manager Scott has to double as the planning director. This you never saw anything like this during the Patterson or the Autry eras, where city managers had to double as 2 or 3 department heads too.
And didn't he have a stroke or a mild heart attack?
He had a mild heart attack, and
how's his health now?
Well, he seems vibrant. And if the news conference when he was announced that he was leaving for Burbank, he was gracious and handled some tough questions well. So I think he did a very, very good job. But Fresno at the same time is very rough on city managers. It's like they come and go, and they're battered, and then off they go, and
you never see them again.
Never see them because it's like they've been 15 rounds with Tyson or something. It's just like, oh wow. So I feel for them. I feel for them.
A great way to describe it. It's exactly right. All right, put up on the screen Rob Brown, the fire chief. We'll talk about him just a little bit. Of course, Fresno fire chief under fire right now. 5 felony charges against him. What do you make of this case here?
Well, he's innocent until proven guilty, but this puts I'm assuming it'll probably be soon-to-be city manager Bruce Rudd will make the decision, because Rob Brown, the fire chief, reports to the city manager, but clearly something happened that night at the Brown household. And
now his family members say, "Oh, it was overblown. Nothing happened."
But that gives you one indication of how the sensitivity here for the city manager, and that is that the fire chief has to work very closely with other agencies for public safety.
Right.
And so now the Brown defense, perhaps in a trial, will be that those sheriff's deputies are a bunch of fools, and then use that as a defense, and then Chief Brown hopes to stay on the job, and then call up Margaret Mims, say, "Hey, Margaret, it was all just for show, and let's work together well." When Margaret's department was taken through the ringer in a courtroom, all that kind of delicacy there falls on the city manager's shoulders. Is this the way I want to go forward with one of the most important public safety departments in the county? So
do you think the mayor is under any kind of pressure to maybe push Brown aside because of the incident, whether he's guilty or innocent? He's innocent until proven guilty. We all know that. So is she under some kind of pressure because of public perception, do you think?
Well,
that's always a question. I mean,
she's under, and again, you bring up a good point that even though the city manager, the fire chief reports to the city manager,
it's under her umbrella.
Right. The mayor will make the final decision. Mayor Swearingen will make.
But is it a perception problem, or?
Well, that's one thing. There's a perception problem, but again, there is a public policy issue about when you have something occurred at that Brown household, and it involves the fire chief whose job requires him to be calm, cool, and collected under incredible pressure.
Right.
And then to have something happen at home, is that the person you want in charge of a major emergency when they perhaps have issues handling something at home? So the mayor's got to decide that, and like a general, she has to make hard decisions what's best for the public.
That's really a good way to put it. It is a pressure-packed position, as are most of those top positions at City Hall. They all are. George, it's good to see you.
Okay.
Hey, you and Dennis Hart got to come back?
Yes,
soon.
Yes. As soon as Dennis gets back from Wrigley Field.
Yeah, I know. Where is he? I don't know. I got to get him on the phone. Get him back here ASAP. Anyway, George Hostetter, always welcome here, our friend from the Fresno Bee. Thank you for your phone calls. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. back here tomorrow with another edition of Connect with Me on Me TV Fresno.